Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Dr. Homebrew. We're back in the virtual studio here, the virtual tasting lab, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. And we have a bunch of homebrews to get through. But before we do that, of course, we want to thank 5 Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com and learn about every different single solitary way to make your homebrew better, which is cleaning it and sanitizing it. I sort of ruined it for you. That's the spoiler alert of this whole thing. Cleaning and sanitizing in that order. You can't sanitize a dirty thing. You can't just go, oh, this carboy's kind of yucky and mungy. I'll just soak it in Star San and then it'll be fine.
You can't sanitize the dirt and then clean the dirt off.
Right, that's not how it works, man.
Oh, come on. You can't sanitize dirt. What are you talking about?
You try
that
Sean.
crusty stuff that's all like baked onto your bottles and the inside of your counterflow chiller and stuff. You can't sanitize that?
No, apparently not. I don't know. That's what Cooper's saying. What do I know? I'm just an idiot. But anyway, go to 5 Star Chemicals. They are not idiots. They know exactly what they're doing. We just talk about shit. Like we know what we're talking about. But anyway, welcome everybody. It's exciting times here in Dr. Homebrew because we need beers. We need things to drink. We're going to have a Pilsner, I believe, on this show with Spencer here, who is our guest in the first half. The second half, we're going to have Gordon Strong on, and we're going to talk about BJCP guideline changes and revisions that have happened over the last however many months. But 2015, I think, was the last guidelines release.
Well, there's a new one out, since December 2021.
There you go. So it's now since December 2021. So we're going to be
new deal.
Talking to Gordon about that. And then our next show, we have 2 sour beers to get through, and that's it. So if you're dying to get on Dr. Homebrew, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. Anything that you have that is fermented, we will taste. Fucking sauerkraut. I don't care. Doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Are we going to drink the juice of the sauerkraut and then judge that? Or are we going to eat the sauerkraut and judge the sauerkraut?
Sure. Whatever. We'll write guidelines for it.
Why not both?
Yeah, exactly. At the same time. So give us a holler, Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. Especially if you live in the Bay Area, you can drop beers off to us. Mm-hmm. We will give you Brian Schar's home address.
I live in, and I can maybe even come, if you're like in the peninsula, I can probably even stop and pick them up from you like when I'm going to visit my daughter.
We're easy over here.
We can do stuff. We can make things happen.
Yeah, we can make things happen.
Not like we're desperate. We just want beer.
Yeah, and both at the same time.
we're thirsty. That's all.
Yeah.
Yes.
So help us out. Send in some beers. Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com, and we'll get you on the show. Spencer, welcome, my lad.
Hey.
What's going on, dude? I want to say I went to get this beer out of the fridge and grabbed a glass, and I just opened it right there. And that cap, the noise that thing made when it popped off the bottle, it was the crispest, like uncapping. It was like everything imagine every beer you've ever uncapped, even commercial ones, and then amplify it by like times 4. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a gusher. And I spun it around at the sink, and then nothing happened. And then I look at there's no foam coming up. It's just still as night. And I'm like, wow, that is a good carbonation pressure. I feel like I walked away lucky that I had all of my eyes and limbs and it didn't explode. So good on you.
Yeah,
man.
There's got to be some kind of a party trick to this, or it's a new kind of cap that we don't know about yet. Something.
There's a little tiny speaker in it and a little chip that plays the sound when it opens.
Yeah, we're actually going to just spend this whole segment talking about that instead of the beer. It's more fun.
Anyway, Spencer, what did you send us, man?
I sent you a German Pilsner, at least what I like. I'm not an expert on the BJCP guidelines, hence why I sent it to Dr. Homebrew.
Yeah.
But I labeled it a German Pilsner because based on my palate, that's what it tastes like. And that was my goal when I
that was your goal.
Got the recipe.
Okay, awesome. Is this something you've brewed before? I mean, you look like you're 12 years old. How long have you actually been brewing?
Believe it or not.
Are you older than this beer?
No. No, I'm younger than the beer.
Okay, good.
No, actually.
That's a neat trick.
This is actually my first all grain brew, and it's actually my first time doing a Pilsner.
Wow.
The only beer I brewed before that was actually a extract amber ale. And then I was like, I love Pilsner. I'm going to go for it. And I did that. So that's what I sent you guys.
So so this is your second batch.
Yes.
Your first batch
Holy
being
cow.
an extract amber, and then you went, fuck it, I'm going to do all grain and Pilsner at the same time. Why not learn two entirely different things, right? Why just learn one thing about all grain, but let's also learn about lagering.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, good, man. Look, I like the effort.
Did you learn German to read some German instructions for how to brew this?
That's my next project.
Yeah. He's actively doing it right now.
Yeah, I've
It's in
got
one
some
of his
tapes you
earpods.
can borrow.
Very good. Yeah.
Well, that's a bold undertaking, Spencer, and I hope you pulled it off for my sake. Yeah, I don't really care about
me too.
about yours, but 'cause I'm going to taste this. But Brian Scharr, why don't you start us off here with this German Pils?
I sure will. So, Spencer, thanks for sending this in. I have to ask my usual question: are you in a homebrew club?
Yes. I'm in the Butler County Brewing Society. I just joined their group last week, actually. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Cool.
Where is Butler County? Is that Pennsylvania?
No, it's Hamilton, Ohio.
Oh, nice. Sorry, you're in
outside of
Ohio. I
Cincinnati.
probably made the cardinal mistake of confusing you with a Pennsylvanian, because I hope we don't have to fight now.
This might be the first time both of our guests are from Ohio on this
wow.
show, right? But first, Can I do something real quick? I want to just do the opening so I can taste the beer with you.
Do it.
Ready? Here, look. This is the fill. It's down, a ways down. This one's down by the shoulder of the bottle. It's in a nice Barsteiner, a German bottle. But here,
see what I mean?
Whoa. That's good. That's real good.
He did a good job. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
All right, so
Okay,
yeah,
Brian.
that was in my notes. I'll hold this up to the camera. It's maybe a little bit too, the light balance is wrong, but I made a note: big hiss on opening. You know what? That's it's we drink a lot of homebrew on this show. We get people sending us good homebrew from all over the country, and it's rare that you get a homebrew bottle that when you open it, you have that authoritative pop and the cap comes off. So I commend you for that.
And if that's like the seventh beer in a flight of 9 beers, it'll wake the judges right back up. They'll be just like, oh man, I was sliding, but now I'm fully awake.
And I totally agree with everything Jason said. It's getting a homebrew carbonation right is one of the most difficult things to do in homebrewing, I think. Whether it's in a keg or a bottle, getting that end product to have the right carbonation, I think, is just devilishly hard for a variety of reasons. And it's your second beer and you've mastered that. So you have some sort of innate homebrew talent that needs to be acknowledged. So that's pretty awesome.
You're a natural.
So I'll preface this because I didn't give this beer a bad score overall. But I'll kind of jump a little bit to the end first. I really thought it was well made. I think it was maybe not quite a German Pils. And that's ultimately, you'll hear my score sheet as I go through. And I don't shock you with the score. It's very clean in the aroma. Pilsner malt dominates. That Pils malt is very distinctive. And it's got that kind of sweet, rich aroma. I wasn't getting any hop aroma, even after it warmed. I poured myself 2 samples. I had one bottle that's been out for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and one that has been just out of the fridge. And it's not like it's hot in my house, but it's not super cold. It's probably like 68 in here, 66. And so it's not a hot beer at this point, but usually if there's some hop aroma, it's going to come out from being out in the counter warm. And I just didn't get any. That's an important aspect of this style. And it's one of the key differentiators between Pils and Helles. So there's no off aroma. There's nothing bad about this. For your first lager beer and your first all grain beer, I mean, this is just spectacular. I've had lagers from people that have been doing lagers for years that have off flavors, and there's nothing off that I could tell about this. So I gave this 6 out of 12 from a stylistic and not a technical standpoint. Appearance 3 out of 3. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Do you get any kind of oxidation at all? I'm just curious.
Even in the warmer sample, I'm not getting it in the aroma.
Okay.
Not really getting any in the flavor either.
Okay.
After it's been sitting out warm, as oxidation is typically either that cardboard or a honey, and I'm not really getting either.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to dig at something I'm getting in the nose that I wasn't sure if it was oxidation.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, it's entirely possible it's oxidation and you're getting it and I'm not. That could happen. It's everyone has different thresholds for that, that kind of flavor or that aroma. So appearance 3 out of 3. It's extremely clear. This is just a crystal clear beer. Head is large and long lasting. It settles somewhat quickly, but it persists a long time. Straw color, it's exactly the right appearance. Flavor, initially the flavor is Pilsner malt with medium balance coming up to balance in mid palate. It's well attenuated, not worty. It's can be tough in a lager fermentation to get it to ferment all the way. As far as I'm concerned, it tastes like you got it to ferment out all the way. As with the aroma, there's not really any hop flavor. So it's kind of the same comment there. The hop flavor, kind of a medium, to medium high hop flavor is one of the hallmarks of a German Pils. And I just don't get that. Finish is long and balanced a little bit toward bitterness, but overall it's a very balanced finish. No, I'm not getting any off flavors. I think it's very clean, but I give it 10 out of 20 for stylistic reasons. Mouthfeel 5 out of 5. Body's medium. Carbonation's medium to medium high. Probably more toward medium high. No warming, no astringency. Not creamy, but it's got carbonation, so it's perky in the mouth, and its mouthfeel is fantastic. Again, 5 out of 5. Overall impression, I gave it a 5 for a total of 29. I really like this beer. It's clean. There's no off aromas or off flavors that I can detect. Carbonation is high, as we've discussed, or medium high. It's getting that in a homebrew and getting it in a bottle and getting that to somebody is something to be commended strongly. This would easily be, to me, 40 plus points if the hop aroma and flavor were present. There's such key elements of this style to be missing. And I understand I made a note here at the end. I wasn't getting cardboard or honey oxidation, but I was wondering, well, maybe there was hop in there, that hop flavor or aroma that just kind of aged out. But I'm not getting any of the character that would indicate that this is an old beer. I think that this might have scored a little higher as a Helles, because a Helles and a Pilsner are really close to each other. They're both classic German styles. They're both Pilsner malt beers that use German or Eastern European hops. A Helles tends to be a little maltier, and a Pils tends to be a little hoppier. That's kind of, to break it down, to be overly simplify. That's kind of how I tend to look at that. And frankly, if you entered this as a Helles or set this as a Helles, it should probably be more like a 34, 35 point beer. I'm still going to knock it because, even a Helles is supposed to have, medium low to medium hop flavor and aroma, but it's like it's down here, whereas a Pils is supposed to be up here. So it's not as much of a miss from a style standpoint if it were a Helles. But again, I'm really impressed that this is your second beer you've ever brewed. I'm impressed that it's a lager and it's all grain and it tastes like this. I mean, my second beer was nothing like this, and my second lager was nothing like this, well done, and thank you very much for sharing with us.
Yeah, very good. All right, Cooper, you're up, dude.
All right, I've got the beer in my glass. And it was amazing how it didn't gushed all over the place when it just popped like that. I'm looking at the bottom of the bottle, and it appears this may be a bottle conditioned example. So there's a kind of a fine layer of yeast just tightly packed on the bottom there. It could be something that just settled out too, but it looks like it might be conditioned, which is a good way to help keep oxygen, scavenged in the bottle and not, just bottling a beer from a keg. You have to be really careful. I mean, it won't forgive as much oxygen as a bottle conditioned beer would. So I'll have to decide what I'm thinking about that characteristic that I was trying to dig at there. Sometimes you're left scratching your head and you're sitting at a judging table, and talking to your other judges will help sort out what you're getting. But in this case, I guess we're not there. Like, JP's not telling me anything. Brian didn't give me anything good. I'm just going to go with what I've got here. So
do it.
Yeah. Wow. That was quite a pop hiss. The beer was kind of a low fill. So from a judging perspective, it was like the first bottle was just above the shoulder of the beer. It also had like a Warsteiner logo on it. So if you were entering it in a competition, we're not going to be picky about the logo on the bottle, but a competition might disqualify you for that if you're entering it. So just get plain bottles if you're going to do one of those. The fill is probably about 2.25 inches from the cap. You want to get it up, more like 3/4 an inch at the most, kind of territory. Have them be uniform too. But that's a fine point. What really matters is how the beer tastes and smells and everything. So in the aroma, I'm getting a low malty aroma. At first, I was thinking somewhat on the stale / oxidized side. There might be a little kind of papery thing going on, but it's coming across also as maybe a little bit of an earthy quality, and it might be a hop thing, but there's not that much hop in here, so I'm a little confused about that. Where would that be coming from? This little earthiness, or it's not really wet cardboard. It's really, really muted, and it's kind of backgroundy, but I don't know. It's slightly fruity. Let's say there's kind of a muted herbal, spicy hop. I didn't get any DMS or diacetyl, so it's pretty clean. There's not a lot of sulfury notes detected in here. I thought maybe it seemed a bit cidery, almost like a little sweetness to the nose. I also gave it a 6 out of 12 there. Appearance-wise, it's kind of a dull golden, slightly on the grayish side of golden, or just a light golden, very clear. Just brilliant clarity. I like the appearance, the color-wise and clarity-wise. The head starts, pretty high if you pour it straight down the glass, but it has these kind of crackly bubbles that it starts big and falls apart pretty quickly soon after you pour it. So I dropped it a point for appearance, down to a 2 from 3. Flavor-wise, it's multi-sweet. That's kind of there's an odd, like, kind of apple juicy fruit gum like fruitiness behind that. I don't know what that was coming from. We'll want to talk about your fermentation temperature, or see how you did your lagering and things like that. But it's a little fruitier than I would expect in a German Pilsner. So the malt is somewhat grainy also. That's nice, but it's not screaming like the classic German Pils malt to me. Very low hops with just minor bitterness. Hops kind of herbal in quality, maybe a little spiciness in the background there too. The spiciness can come from multiple different things. It can come from phenolics in there, but I don't think it was like a phenolic from a wild yeast or anything in there. But there's something just a little bit dulled about it, and I think maybe it's just that the hop is not there to balance. I'm trying to think, is there any honey-like quality to it? It's not really honey-like. I think I was trying to talk myself into that, but it's not really there. So the finish in it too is semi-sweet, I would say. It's got a little something that gives me the impression of sweetness in it. And I don't know where the finishing gravity landed, but it should be a little drier for style. And it's definitely balanced to the malt. You definitely want to bring up the hop in this to have it be a better example of a German Pils. And there's kind of just sweetness in the aftertaste, a little sweet malt in the aftertaste lingering there. And it could also be there's lacking some minerals to play off the bitterness that is there properly. I'm not sure of the fermentation quality. It's not coming across like a classic lager, but it's also not like a really flawed fermentation. It seems pretty cleanly fermented for the most part. So I'm kind of struggling with it. I gave it a 9 out of 20 for flavor, just because of all those things that kind of made me scratch my head a little bit and weren't quite to style. And I thought maybe a little defective, but it's not glaring, but just maybe some minor issues there. Mouthfeel wise, medium bodied, a bit heavy for the style, just a little fuller feeling. Medium high carbon dioxide, no obvious astringency or creamy qualities. It just kind of slides out the tongue. I thought maybe I got kind of almost an oily quality to it in a way. And I'm also trying to figure out what is in there that's killing your head like that. But it does have a different kind of mouthfeel to it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 for mouthfeel. No real warmth in there either. It shouldn't have any of that. Yeah, overall, it's an interesting beer to drink. It really is refreshing, and it's a good beer. It's enjoyable. Has some of the expected elements of German Pils style, just falling a bit flat when it comes to certain elements. Whatever that earthy quality that's in there, we want to figure out how to twist that around and maybe get more of a noble hop character in there instead to balance off of the malt that is there and bring up the more characteristic German ingredients. The German Pils malt, obviously a real quality malt with a good crush, and mash it the right way and get it all, keep everything happy. You do want to reduce any oxygen contact after primary fermentation if it is a little bit of oxidation, which I thought I might have gotten in the nose, but it wasn't so much in the flavor. I just check the lager fermentation profile, avoid any fruity qualities, make sure you're using the right yeast strain for the style, and just keep that yeast really happy and start ferment it cold at lager temperatures, 50 degrees ish, and bring it up for a diacetyl rest. You got rid of the diacetyls, which was really nice. So it could be that it was a little bit warmer fermented beer, I'm guessing, but I'm grasping at straws there. Figure out where that little fruitiness is coming from. Mm-hmm. It doesn't taste like hot or super bitingly alcoholic, which could also happen if you let your yeast go crazy at a super high temperature. But anyway, yeah, just be careful to pitch adequate yeast. Keep any unwanted strains of yeast out of there. But fixing the head retention. If there's any source of anything that's going to give you any kind of oiliness in there, something that's going to kill the head, I don't know. But also just make sure that you're, it kind of crackles and it falls apart after you pour it.
Yeah, they're big foamy bubbles.
Yeah. So it seems like it's just like there's a lot of probably small chain proteins in there. Like maybe you're doing something that's breaking down the proteins in your malt a little too much for what you need. If you're doing like a extensive protein rest or something before your sacrification rest, I don't know. It sounds like you're a pretty new brewer, so you're probably not doing anything really fancy like that. I'm just trying to figure out what to say to help you out here, but I think it would be fun to talk about your recipe. I gave it a 4 out of 10 for overall impression, just because it was kind of off style and it's interesting and good, but it's just misses the mark on style and has some minor issues. So I landed at a 24 out of 50, although I'd like to be kind of where Brian is. I honestly like the beer, and I think in a competition, if I was discussing it with him, I might give it the benefit of the doubt and come up a couple of points because it was enjoyable, just not quite to style. And there's a number of things you need to do to get it there, and we can help you get it there.
Yeah, but, I agree. I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, just real fast. But like you were saying, Cooper, I didn't say anything when Char was talking, but I do get sort of a honey. There is a thing, but it's more like almost like agave, where it's a sweetness and there's a little more roundness to the sweetness, almost like maybe boil was too long or something like that. I don't know. I think you guys are right. It definitely needs way more hops. It's not bitter at all. And I think Char was right. It's like a Helles. It would have done better as a Helles. There is like a green apple fruity thing to it as well. So I'd be interested to talk about that. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say there. You're almost there, Spencer, but there's a couple things. Anyway, tell us a bit about the beer. You want to give us your recipe first and we can go that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have in here, I did 9.5 pounds of German Pilsner malt, 4 ounces of Melanoid malt, and then 2 ounces of Hirschbrucker hops at 60 minutes. I used a Munich lager yeast 2308 and fermented at 55 degrees for 5 days, and then lagered it. I decreased the temperature by about like 2 degrees per day until I got around 35 degrees, and let that stay there for about 6 weeks.
So when you fermented at 55 degrees for 5 days, did you control the upper end of that fermentation? Or okay, so that's, and then you lagered it after it was at 55 for just 5 days.
According to my notes, I remembered it's a thing in there for longer, but that's what I wrote in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because that is the high end for lagering, right? Isn't it like 45 to 55? You want it sort of in the lower area of that.
Yeah, some brewers will start even in the upper 40s and let it rise up to 50. But 55 is on a little bit on the high end. But also, too, I think 5 days is pretty quick. And if you pitched a massive starter, that's that rocked through all that the gravity that was there so super quickly, you might be fine. But I think maybe you started reducing the temperature a little too quickly and left a little residual sweetness in the beer that would have otherwise fermented out. But it did, yeah. I don't know if you took a gravity reading at that point when you started chilling it.
No, I did do a diacetyl rest in between there, so I didn't take as good a notes as I should have. But I did do a diacetyl rest before taking it down for lager.
Okay. Yeah.
And before we get too far away from this, Spencer, you were talking about using just a few ounces of melanoidin malt. And I wonder if that's maybe where you guys were picking up kind of a honey type flavor, because a little melanoidin malt goes a long way. And maybe that's what we were kind of getting in the background, or you were getting in the background, that maybe it was a slight honey, but wasn't quite an oxidation. Just a thought.
I think that could very well be it. Yeah. It's just a little background note. That's it. Something different than you expect in the Pilsner.
Yeah. Absolutely. What about the hops? So this is a 5-gallon recipe, Spencer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 5 gallons.
2 ounces?
It's 2 ounces of Hirschbrucker.
Yeah. I mean, it's not enough. What was the alpha acid on those? Do you remember?
I don't know. I don't have that written down.
Okay. That's a fairly low alpha.
Yeah. So that's probably,
those tend to be low alpha hops.
Yeah. So that has a lot to do with there's not really a whole lot of hop character in here at all. So you want a little bit more aggressive hops, I think, than that, or at least get it up to the IBU range that you want.
Is there a different hop that you would suggest? Or
Citra.
No,
I'm kidding. No, I mean, I think
it's gotta be German Citra.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Citra. I mean,
Setnanger or
there you go.
Hallertau. Some Zoss or something for fun,
Yeah, but more importantly, you want to hit the IBU range. So you look at the IBUs of the hops that you're putting in, because they fluctuate. It's a agricultural product; it changes from year to year, and then you put it in some sort of online calculator, like a Beersmith or something like that, and you'll get your target range for a German Pilsner, which I don't know, what, 20s, something like that. I have no idea. And then you want to make sure that you're adding enough hops in there to hit that IBU range. Because if you put 2 ounces of hops in, but the alpha is really low, that's not, you're still not going to have enough IBUs in those hops to get where you want.
To 40. Yeah. 22 to 40 IBUs is where you want to kind of land.
Yeah. Personally, I would go upper 30s, but I sort of like an aggressive German Pilsner.
What was the finishing gravity on the beer? Did it pretty good?
The original gravity was 1043 and the final gravity was 1010.
Oh, okay. No, it's pretty light. Yeah. 1043. That's on the low end for alcohol. It's a nice light drinker, but it's flavorful for the low alcohol for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, for your second beer ever, there's no real off flavors. I mean, there's some fermentation issue. I think like the green apple thing or a little bit, but there's commercial beers that have more green apple than this.
It's way better than my first lager. I'll say that. Yeah.
Oh, hell
Same
yeah.
here.
My first 6 beers, they were undrinkable.
I didn't do a lager until like 6 months in or something. Probably.
And kudos to you for actually doing a real lager. Can I just say, I'm glad that we've sort of gotten over this fast lager nonsense that we were going on for like 4 seconds. You did a proper lager. You're trying to do it right.
Yeah, I enjoy.
That's commendable.
Lagers are becoming a lot more popular, and people are recognizing, some of these styles, and some more obscure styles, and the Czech beers are coming up, and the slow pour pilsners and stuff like that. Kind of fun things coming up.
Yeah. Spencer, do you have any other questions for these guys?
I guess just recipe questions. I mean, the main reason I wanted to submit my second beer on to Dr. Homebrew was because the first beer I didn't have any off flavors that I noticed, and then this one seemed to turn out. So I was like, I just must not be good at tasting. I was like, obviously this is my second beer. There's got to be something, I'm doing wrong, or I wanted to know what I could do better, and obviously recipe, and I was expecting to get a 14 on my second beer. So submitting.
Oh, damn, dude! No. So elevate yourself. Thrilled. Yeah.
The beer has to be almost undrinkable to get a score like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to taste like rosemary and dirt.
Yeah.
And not like beer at all to get a 14.
13
is far above a 14.
Yeah. 13 is like the baseline. We're like, I'm not going to touch this. You're going to, get a nice soft 13. I mean, I think it sounds like you have a good palate. If you don't have, if you're not finding anything wrong in this and you're sending it on, I would be above the recipes. I would recommend hooking up with your local BJCP folks. Hook it up with your homebrew club. I forget if you're in a homebrew club or not.
He was, yeah.
Keep doing that. Keep bringing your beer in. Buy Brewing Classic Styles and get some tried and true recipe formulations, because I think there's a lot you can do that can be overwhelming. See, there you go. There's a lot that can be overwhelming on your second batch when you're just learning all grain. Also, How to Brew by John Palmer. Then, if you're still, because you want to, as a home brewer, you want to just do everything at once. You want to learn 8 things, and you want to put them in at the same time. But you sort of have to learn a little bit of finesse. So either it's with your equipment, so just use someone else's recipes for now, and just work on your process, and then your fermentation.
Yeah, I think I got this recipe on Beersmith or something.
Okay.
One of those online.
So were we saying it was too much melanoidin, Shar? Is that what you're sort of saying?
I'm guessing. I just, in my view, melanoidin malt, you're not going to decoct a Pilsner. I mean, maybe if you're so super German that you're wearing lederhosen while you're doing it, maybe you would. But I mean, you're typically not going to decoct a lighter German beer at lower alcohol. You might decoct. You're looking at Bock's, Doppelbock's, like the darker styles, possibly like the lighter styles that are higher alcohol. But I feel like and this is just a guess. I'm guessing that in a Pilsner, which is light in flavor, light in body, light in hopping here, even a few ounces of melanoidin malt, that's really strong flavored malt. And that's going to give you, I think, maybe this background, almost honey type flavor that those guys were definitely getting. And I was kind of getting a little hint of, there's something in the background I'm not sure I like, but I couldn't really articulate what that was. I think nothing good is going to come from melanoidin malt in a Pilsner. That's just my opinion. I don't see anything good coming from that. Yeah, and that's why Beersmith is fine. It's a totally good program. Getting recipes online is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that. The virtue of these guys, you held up Brewing Classic Styles, is that they're proven competition winning recipes by a really skilled home brewer and professional brewer.
Yeah, anal people.
Yes, and it gives you kind of a starting point to maybe gauge other recipes based on. It doesn't mean you should only brew what's in Brewing Classic Styles, but especially starting out, it gives you some kind of base for where to go from. And it's the kind of base that none of us had when we were starting. We would kind of have to rely on, well, what does the local homebrew store say? what is some guys hanging around here who are also buying grain? What do they say? You don't know them or if they're any good or anything. Doesn't mean that they're not trying to be helpful, but I mean, you get my point. At least it gives you a starting point, and you clearly have a real talent for home brewing. And I urge you just to keep it up. Brew a bunch of different styles that you like. Brew some that you don't. Learn things, listen to old episodes of Dr. Homebrew and Brew Strong and all that. And just keep it up because your technical skills are already, way far above where I was, years deep into this hobby.
Yeah,
well, he
doing
looks
a ton of things right. Yeah, just use straight Pilsner malt on this. Lower the fermentation temp a little bit. And, bring up the hops. And I think you got a winner. Send it back to us. We'd love to retaste this.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few more batches under your belt.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Is that it, Spencer?
Yeah. The only other question I had is you mentioned, I think Shar maybe mentioned about the minerals or not having enough minerals, maybe.
I think that was me.
I haven't started playing with water chemistry.
If you have pretty clean water,
I just did spring. I just got spring water from the store. As that was like a suggestion that I had gotten.
That's perfectly fine for where you're at. I would not screw around with water chemistry right now.
Yeah, it could either be that the bittering hop was too low or there wasn't enough mineral there to play off of it. So I would start with just bringing up the bittering hop and then go from there. If it's still not right, you can adjust the water. But water is usually the last thing you want to get crazy with. If you're using a good clean water like you are, you're fine.
And you don't even have to. I still don't even do it. It's too much for me. I can barely get along with my robotic system. I don't need to. All right. Well, definitely rebrew it, Spencer. And send it to us.
Will do.
Yeah. All right, brother.
Absolutely.
We'll let you go.
Nice. Keep on playing guitar too.
No, stop doing that.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing.
Later, man.
Absolutely. Yep. Later.
All right, guys. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to speak with the svelte, lusciously beautiful Gordon Strong from the BJCP program. We'll be right back here on Dr. Homebrew. Hang on.
Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. No, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
All right, thanks for hanging on, everybody. We are joined by our friend Gordon Strong from the BJCP, here to talk a little bit about the changes in the style guidelines for this year. Gordon, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, JP, thanks.
It's good to see you, too, by the way. It's been too long. You've been on this show before, I believe, right? Years and years, too many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And
you guys did one at HomebrewCon one year, right?
You didn't have my theme music, though. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My email's down. I didn't get it. I mean, I can find you something, if you really want to. If you really want me to find something, I can find something for you. Gordon Strong, everybody.
That was really professional.
Thanks, man. Yeah, okay, whatever. I have fun
He's
by myself.
He's a top-notch podcaster.
Yeah. Gordon, what's your title at the BJCP, please?
I'm the president emeritus.
There you go.
And I'm the chair of the style guidelines committee.
Okay.
So I led the revision like I have for the last 4 of them.
Wow. It's a thankless job at some parts.
Yeah,
literally.
It's a huge job too. Because guidelines are pretty big, and it's a lot of work to do anything with those guidelines.
How many
how
many death threats do you get after a revision?
It's like 80,000 words or something. It's
oh my God!
86
Damn.
pages. It's
that's wild. Yeah, that's wild. So the new guidelines came out last month, right in December.
Yeah, we published them then.
Okay, and then
it had been since 2015 was the last update.
Yeah. Is that a long time in between, or do you have a certain timeline where, like, look, 5 years is the most that we want to go without sort of tweaking it out?
It's not necessarily the most. It's about average.
Okay.
So, I mean, the last ones I've worked on was 2004, 2008, 2015, 2021. So, it's been as much as 7 years and as few as 4 years.
Yeah.
But 5 years feels about right.
When do you start working on the changes?
Well, I start collecting ideas almost immediately. As soon as it's published, there's a pile of to-dos.
Sure.
But this one sort of began about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Started doing the major plan. Usually it starts with some strategizing about what are some of the goals, and are there any like major problems we're trying to fix. And every other guideline update is a major update where we might add a lot of styles or move things around, and the in-between one is it's like a 0.5 software release. It's meant for like they say in the App Store, bug fixes and performance improvements.
Right.
Yeah, I was noticing that because 2015 was such a big change as far as rearranging some of the styles and renaming some of the styles, consolidating some styles. And this one, yeah, I read your notes from like December from this, Gordon, and it's interesting, and I think they're good and necessary changes. But as you were saying, it's not nearly as big of a revision as 2015 was.
Yeah, you have to go all the way back to 2004, and if you were judging at the turn of the century, it's. We were using whatever it was, 98 or 99 guidelines then, and the 2004 was a big lift from that. Yeah. So 2015 was on the same par as that, but most people just know them more recently. But a lot of the changes in there are the things that people, we listen to the questions people are asking when we're at competitions, hearing how people are using it. Are people confused? Do we see beers misentered somehow? Are people asking us, where do I put this style? So those are the kind of things that lead to the analysis of how do we respond from there.
I do like that a lot of the numbers stayed the same this time, and then past minor updates. Some of them, it seems like more of them probably changed.
Numbers meaning
or the sub style, the letters. If
well, that was
added a beer. Yeah, it was kind of
that was intentional. Even when we made some changes, we sort of tacked them on at the end of a category because we know that affects people who are entering competitions. So something that people have to keep in mind is it's like the blind men describing the elephant. Like people are there are a lot of different kinds of users of the guidelines. So the people enter competitions, want them to change a lot, and they want new styles, and people taking the test want it to be left alone. So the last,
that's me.
Know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's me. Even when I'm drinking, like I don't want this to change. Why do we need this style?
But by the time you finally get a seat for the exam, you show up and then find out, we changed things. Did you get the memo? So those people are like, no, don't change it at all.
Yeah.
So there's that sort of natural tension. Plus, a lot of people tend to think, the 2015 ones changed a lot because we tried to internationalize them more so that people in different countries could use them. A lot of the styles we're talking about are from other countries. And, we tended to describe them in earlier editions like they were all U.S. imports. So, some comments, people didn't really articulate the problem. Like, the Brits would say, there's some problems with the UK styles. What it meant was we were describing sort of oxidized beers. It's like, why are you describing them as caramely when they're fruity? Well, because that's what they taste like when they get here.
Yeah.
So we tried to describe them, more like fresh styles and be usable in different places in the world.
Okay. When you have a style and you're looking for classic examples of that style to list, how do you do that? Now I'm just asking questions I've always wanted to know. Like, do you go like, oh, I got a friend in Latvia who can get me, a dark lager, and can I to be considered a classic example of the style is an honor, I would imagine, for most people. How do you figure that out?
A good 2/3 to 3/4 of the examples in this were put together by Chris England, and that's something that he works on a lot. I mean, I did, the rest of them, maybe a third of them. And so I can tell you what I do. I don't know what he does. But, we travel. So when we try a good example, we make note of it, especially if it's close to where the style originated or is known for.
Okay.
Other than that, like if we're at big commercial competitions, if we're at the GABF and we go around and try things, that's how we try. It's not what necessarily winds up in our store. We do look at if we're stretching to come up with examples, we might look at things that have won medals in big competitions repeatedly. That can sort of substitute a little bit for ones that we haven't personally tried, but we try to taste these things during travels and judging and things like that.
Makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. That's cool.
But because they could win medals, but they might not be described by the brewery as that style. So
right. That's a clash.
And if you have to rely on some crowdsourced thing, you have no idea how accurate that is.
No, I was just hoping you were going to get free beer from everybody. Every brewery's going to be like, dude, this is my Scotch ale, has to be in. You got to.
I hope that too. So,
you don't want to have this rely on untapped.cz for like Czech dark lager or something.
No. In some of those cases, we deal with local homebrewers who can do the same kind of things that we do and try these kind of examples. If they don't exist in larger, we do try to come up with examples that are packaged and distributed. It's all well and good that my local brew pub that doesn't package has a good example of the style, but that then nobody can try it, so why bother?
Yeah, right.
So we have to we'll only list something like that if we really, really can't find others.
Okay.
Or if it's so iconic, like with the I don't mean to focus on the Czech styles, but I really want to go to Prague someday. It's on my list of places on my short list. But even I've heard of the U Fleku brew pub. And I know that's like the classic example of like all these Czech styles. And most of us will never get a chance to go to U Fleku, but it's so iconic. The place is 1,000 years old or something, 500 years old. It's a really old brewery. So
500 or 600 years, I think.
Yeah. So those things I get where, maybe it's a brew pub most people can't go to, but if it's that iconic of a representation of the style, then of course it has to be the commercial example.
Yeah.
Right. But in those kind of cases, like in Czech styles, I had a number of people that helped in 2015 that were, there. And some people are, pretty well renowned, like Evan Rail. People that, aren't just making stuff up. I mean, you have to be able to trust their palate and what they know about, and if they have to understand how we've described the style. So, they might go grab something that they really like.
Yeah.
But if it winds up being sort of out of style as how we've written them, it probably will be doing more harm than good, because it'll just confuse people that do try it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I liked that those were brought in the last time, and I like that we finally brought in the hazy IPA, and we've got a really good place to put kettle sours and stuff now too, with the straight sour beer. That's a pretty good addition, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of that was a base style that we had to create to make specialty beers work, because
wow, that's crazy. You're like solving problems.
Yeah. That was a creative solution to this, because some people would make these sort of fruited sours and they would just say, oh, it's a fruited Berliner Weiss. I'm like, well, then that's a fruit beer. So enter it there. And they put fruited Berliner Weiss. Oh, it's like 5.5%. Like, that's nice, but a Berliner Weiss should be like less than 3%. So immediately you're out of style. So, you didn't mean it was a Berliner Weiss. You meant, it's just a sour beer.
Yeah.
We had to have, we've got these other categories for like funky sours and, sort of barrel sours and those things. So, clean sours didn't really have a base. So I had to sort of interpret how brewers were trying to solve the problem, and they were solving it by saying, well, Berliner Weiss is close enough, and maybe we'll hope they don't notice the alcohol.
Yeah, that's the worry, because when you ask brewers, like commercial brewers, to solve problems, they're just going to always err on the side of destroying the style to whatever they can make money on, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, serve me another 6.5% pale ale, and I'm going to stab somebody.
Right. That pretty soon in Berlin, they'll be brewing the beer stronger and stronger to keep up with the expectations.
This is my iced Berliner Weiss. It's 12%.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember reading in Zymergy or BYO, like, it had to be 6 or 7 years ago, about, like, they weren't called kettle sours, but they were some of the first kettle sours. And they were from brewers in Florida, and they were calling them at the time Florida Weiss.
Ooh.
Right.
Where they were putting like Florida tropical fruits into something and doing the kettle sour process to make a Florida Weiss. And that terminology didn't stick around, thaintfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where some of that, I totally, thinking back to some old.
People asked me about when I, people in Florida asked me about it.
Why didn't they call it Miami Vice?
Oh my God, that was the absolute. That's the winner. Oh my God,
Cooper, fucking dad joke.
No, that's not dad joke. That's just good branding.
That's true.
Yeah, that's because the beer isn't cool enough to be called that.
Yeah, basically.
So we've got an Appendix B now, local styles. Some of this is in Spanish. I'm going to need to learn Spanish. This is cool.
Ojalá que sí.
The Argentine styles and the
oh wow,
yeah,
styles.
I mean, those were there last time, but we added to them.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So the Catarina sour is what I often hear from the Florida people about, like, we had Florida Weiss and it's the same thing. Like, yeah, and they sent me a style, and it basically said it's a Berliner Weiss with fruit, and I'm like, well, there's a place for that, and it's called fruit beer. So, if they had said, no, you need to invent a new base style in order for this beer to make sense, then I might have taken it more seriously. But honestly, I never see them in Florida. It's like a couple of times a year, and I've looked for them, and I wanted to try them. It's like,
no one
it's
does.
Like might be like a festival beer or something, but
yeah,
they would taste good in Florida, but
absolutely
good in Brazil.
Yeah,
we started seeing a lot of Catarina sours a few years ago, and some of them are just mind-blowingly good. Like,
the
balance in that beer when it's done right can be amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I judged a competition in Brazil in November, and it was the second most entered category.
Wow.
American IPA, Catarina sour. So
cool.
Wow.
And they were delicious. I think one of them won best of show. So
I imagine there with the fresh fruit from down there, and just
and that's the important thing is for them is that style needs the fruit to be fresh. I mean, if step one of brewing is open a can, then you've already failed.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Gordon. Well, I think we've taken up enough of your time, man. I know it's late, and I really want to thank you very much for coming on the show. And we should get you back and do a little deeper dive into some styles or how the BJCP works, or I don't know, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, anytime you want to chat.
A little more advance notice next time.
This was fine. I had
good.
I've done some chats on this lately. So this was better because you guys actually had some questions. So obviously you've seen the styles, and I put together a presentation based on people don't know what it is. I'm like, but we've already published it, so You just read them. So it's much better to hear like, oh, what do you think about them? What are your impressions? Do you think there are any missing areas that ought to be tackled? Because that's the kind of feedback that I like hearing from people is, don't tell me how to fix it. Just tell me, what do you think the issue is? And
right.
We'll work it in.
Yeah. Point the problem out, not the solution.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And be sure to read the 16-page preamble before you ask any questions, because that explains a lot in there. Right.
Yeah. That's meant to preemptively rebut most complaints. So
yeah. Well, we get a ton of
read it yet.
Yeah. And we get a ton of weird styles on this show too. I mean, most of them now are hazy IPAs, which is, I don't even want to talk about it. It's traumatizing for me. But yeah, we get a ton of weird ass stuff, and it's really nice to be able to like reference the style guidelines and guide the entrants into a way to classify their beer, because that's the whole point of our show.
And if you get those kind of weird style questions, you can shoot them my way too, because
nice.
That's actually sort of something we added that's not in the printed guidelines. We created a web page for, basically, you came up with this weird thing and you don't know where to enter it. So, maybe we can describe it to you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's called suggested style entries, and it's on the website.
On the website, bjcp.org.
I know there was one question that JP always wanted to ask, though. If we ever got you on the show again, he was threatening to ask something on our behalf, I think. Do you remember that one, JP?
I don't remember that, but I did say, maybe this is what you're referring to, I did say that I would lobby hard to get you guys judging points, because we've been doing this
points.
We've been doing this program. We've been doing this program for like 7 years, and we do 2 shows a month, 4 beers a month. These guys fill out the BJCP score sheets, and I think they deserve some like a quarter of a brownie point every year or something like that. You never know.
Talk to your regional representative.
That's right, Cooper. Get shit on, kid.
Yeah, we'd have to register as a competition every month too. So yeah.
I mean, I guess we could. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things I thought was funny about these guidelines, and kind of goes back to what you were saying, that you've been working on these for about 3 years. Funny. Is the Brute IPA? No, you don't amuse me. It's the guidelines. The Brute IPA amuses me, because it's clear that you guys did a lot of work on that, and then Brute IPA kind of came and went, and you even kind of acknowledge in the guidelines this may be a dying style.
I wasn't gonna. Yeah, so. I'm glad you asked that question, because this is the behind the scenes view. We have these provisional styles, right? So in between releases of the guidelines, we can come up with a style and post it on the web and say, here you go ahead and use it.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out the Brewed IPA, and we were trying them, and they were very one-off at the time, and people kept changing it. So I'm like, oh, this style is kind of a moving target. Maybe I ought to wait, because I had something written up, and then, poof, like all of a sudden nobody was making it. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, this was a bad idea, and I was just gonna leave it at that. And then I was like on a podcast or some sort of chat with, I think it might have been people in Australia or something. I'm like, oh, yeah, we make them, we would use this. I'm like, really? Ooh. So that's the thing about the guidelines is, they're not trying to tell you to go out and make these things. Yeah. But if you have a competition and one of these shows up, wouldn't it be nice for you to have a reference to judge it against?
Yeah.
Rather than everybody said, hey, do you remember that thing? So
this guy made one.
That's an excellent point, because I was kind of amused by that as an American, but there's a whole world out there, and BJCP is a global organization, and we got judges in Israel, South Africa, Eastern Europe, Australia probably has a ton of judges. And just because we may have kind of gotten over Brewed IPA doesn't mean that maybe in Brazil or Australia, they're not totally loving it.
Yeah, actually, I joked about like moving black IPA to historical because the same kind of thing happened to it. So actually in South America, it's a much more popular style. I mean, you go into you go into a bar and you'll see it. You'll see it. I'm like, oh, wow. That's interesting. I'll have one of those. And then the shocking thing is they're good. So if I ever see the brewers, they say, if Americans made this style like you guys are, maybe it never would have gone away. So
interesting.
So it hangs out there. So even though that's why when we do the updates, we have to be careful to like avoid the US centric view.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and that's a thing that it's a good example of a thing that I thought was amusing, but actually serves a good global purpose and illuminates global beer culture that maybe we don't always know about as Americans.
That's right.
Yeah, we all know about it, but we tend to forget about it.
Sure. Well, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
unless someone reminds us, then it's like, oh yeah, that's right. There's other people.
You guys.
Yeah, so, that's right. You rest of the world.
I do like the provisional styles popping up on the site, and they were very usable when there was no hazy IPA in the guidelines, but I could always pull up the online reference to
so we changed the name to hazy, and people said, "Oh, I can't believe you changed the name." I'm like, well, if you remember, some people probably don't remember, but I mean, we used to call it Imperial IPA, and then we changed it to Double IPA.
Well, I remember that.
What everybody calls it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think hazy is a little more descriptive. It's a little more apropos.
And that seems to describe sort of the point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what was your objective? Well, it's hazy. Is it good? It's hazy.
I wanted to make it for you. I wanted to make it taste like New England.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And for listeners who are curious about this stuff, BJCP.org. There's a column on the left of the website. The top entry says BJCP style guidelines. You hover your mouse over there, and you can go. You'll see about 4 down is provisional styles, which is what we were talking about, and the 5th down is style entry suggestions for in case you have suggestions for Gordon and the BJCP about styles. So that's how you can find that pretty easily on the website.
There you go. Look at you, Brian, helping out, doing
trying to help out.
Yeah. All right, Gordon. I know I said 5 minutes ago we'll let you go, but we'll do it now for sure.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Gordon.
I still have a beverage. So.
Nice, attaboy.
Thanks,
all right, everybody.
Gordon. Stay warm.
It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to wrap up the show. Don't go anywhere, please. Thank you.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos Kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos Kegerators ship with Duo-Tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, everyone. Thanks a lot for sticking around. This is Dr. Homebrew. We are going to wrap it up. We're going to get out of here. Thanks very much to Gordon Strong from the BJCP and, whatever else he does in his professional life. I have no idea. But he came on and spent a lot of time with us, more time than I expected, which is cool because, look, we did holler at him last minute. We reached into the cybernetic ether and hauled his ass in here. So I really appreciate that. And then, of course, thank you to Spencer for sending in his second beer ever, which did not suck. Right. And that's all you can really hope for. If you're listening to the show and you haven't brewed yet and you have like high expectations, don't. Just don't, because it's going to suck. But Spencer's didn't suck. And
my first couple of beers
was actually good. Yeah.
My first 6 beers were contaminated. Taste like ass. Like they were not good.
My first 5 or 6 beers were pretty much ass, but I thought they were good. Or I just drank them anyway because I had spent the time and the money. Yeah, and I just choked them down.
I've always been a picky bitch. I just can't it's like I can't drink this. Here, do you guys want this? Yeah, I don't know why you're not drinking this because it's nasty. It tastes like an ashtray. Oh man, this is whatever. Anyway, we are gonna split Facebook. If you're out there, if you're listening live, hang on just a sec. We have a whole other show talking sour beers with I think some wine in there. I didn't really read the whole notes, but it should be fun. Should be a lot of fun.
Stay tuned and find out.
Yeah, 1 guest, 2 beers. We're gonna see what's going on. So do that if you want to be on the show. Like I said at the top of the show, email Brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. We need some beers, kombucha, cider, wine, whatever you want to do. Catarina Sour. Yeah, if you want to spin up another brute IPA phase of your life, I don't know, do it. I don't care. That's it. That's all I got. Right. Brian Shar, you have a question from the chat, but I'm going to save it for the next show because I want to. We're already a little bit over, and our next guest is waiting. So,
how can I be so handsome? Is that it? Or
that's probably exactly not.
Should I just
not
how can I get you
is.
to shut the fuck up, Brian, and let these other 2 guys talk?
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. It's been Dr. Homebrew, and until next time, we'll see you later.
Cheers.